Jadon Sancho could finally be leaving Manchester United after an official 20 million bid has gone in. It's been confirmed, and Sancho open to the move, but will he agree personal terms? Will he agree wages to leave? Manchester United making their move for Carlos Baleba. We've known for a week we've been in talks with Baleba and his agent, but we're now in talks with Brighton. Brighton will obviously say, well, we don't want to sell him, as they did with Casado, as they did with every player. But that's inviting Manchester United to make a blind bid for Baleba. Let's talk about the latest on that, because Manchester United's tactic, we're going to talk about that. Man United's plan to make this deal happen, secretly advancing on it. United want to keep it under wraps, make some secret advancements on Baleba. We're going to talk about Hojlund, we're going to talk about Garnacho, and if we have time in this 10-minute roundup, we will talk about the injury latest, Lamens, the goalkeeper situation, and more. So, hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to your 10-minute roundup, where every evening throughout the transfer window, unless there's just really nothing to talk about, I do a 10-minute video, basically wrapping up all the news for you guys. So, Roma made permanent bid worth 20 million for Jadon Sancho, United considering the offer. So this was said by Sky Sports chief, who is a good source of information, and then Romano a couple minutes later confirmed that this is true. Roma have made a 20 million bid for Sancho. Considering we wanted 25 million and we got 5 million from Chelsea, take the 20 million, get him gone. Take the 20 million. I would take 15 million at this rate. I just want him gone. And I think Man United will accept a bid of 20 million for Sancho. I think they would. I think, right now, maybe we could get 25 million, but we got the 5 million from Chelsea. I think we're at a point where we probably would take 20 million because he's got 1 year left on his deal. He's on crazy wages. And Romano says the bid is in. It's official. 20 million bid is there. The big thing that Romano said for me, this was the bomber. Sancho has opened doors to Roma move. Now, we know that Turkish clubs have been interested in Sancho, but the reason they haven't made a bid is because they've got no indication from Sancho. For Roma to make that bid, they must have had good indications from Sancho. Now, we've had reports in the past of Inter bid, Juventus bid, but it was kind of said by nonsense Italian media. This is the first time a proper top tier credible source has confirmed a bid for Jadon Sancho, and I don't think a club makes a bid for Jadon Sancho without confidence that the player wants to come. Sancho has opened the door to the moves. I think he would prefer Juventus naturally, but he's opened the doors to the move. A loan with an obligation to buy proposal at easy conditions to activate the permanent deal. That Romano maybe suggests that potentially, rather than it being a straight up 20 million bid, it's a loan with an obligation to buy. But unless he's really crap, it won't be an obligation to buy. But it's like an obligation to buy, whereas if Sancho scores 5 goals, they have to do it, for example. So Sancho has opened the door to a move, and there is now reports coming out that AS Roma are close to reaching an agreement to sign Sancho. So he could finally be on the way out. Fingers crossed. But yes, let's talk about Carlos Baleba. So, I mentioned this in my live stream earlier, but this is what Ben Jacobs dropped on the United Stand YouTube channel today. He said, talks have already started between United and Brighton for Carlos Baleba and will continue on the club-to-club side. United don't have a price and Brighton have a number internally. If you get within the ballpark of that number, they will sell, but you're bidding blind. Now, we discussed this earlier. Ben Jacobs went on the United Stand YouTube channel. I mentioned it today. But what that's saying is, and what the big thing is that he's mentioned, is that United have started talks with Brighton. We've been in talks with Baleba all week. We got that sorted. Boom. We hadn't been in talks with Brighton. The last few days we've been in talks with Brighton. We're still in talks with Brighton after a couple of days. We've not walked away. We've not looked at alternative targets. While Brighton starts as they don't want to sell, they do that with nearly every player. And it's just how Brighton operates, so they can get the best price. But one thing I think is United are trying to keep this deal under wraps. Now, Fabrizio Romano added to this and basically said Brighton are still not giving official numbers to Manchester United for Baleba. They did a similar situation with Moises Caicedo where they didn't really tell Chelsea what they wanted and they waited for Chelsea to make a bid, and then Liverpool made a bid, and then Liverpool made a massive bid and Chelsea had to then up their bid to get as much money as possible. It's, as Ben Jacobs said, it's bidding blind. It's not, rather than saying give us 100 million and we're upset, they're like, go and make a bid, and if it's in a region that we want, we're upset. Because I think that's their way of testing the waters. How much can we get out of United? How much could we potentially get? Rather than saying 100 million, Man United are like, cool, we'll meet it. It's like, no, make a bid and we'll see. And Liverpool made a huge bid for Casado, which got accepted. And then Chelsea had to match that. Continuing on into other stuff. So a Brighton-based journalist said that Brighton have agreed not to sell Baleba at this stage, but talks are now being held between the two clubs, and Baleba's keen on joining United. So you're telling me Brighton have agreed not to sell Baleba, but talks are being held between the two clubs. So they said we're not going to sell Baleba, and then after they said, we're not going to sell Baleba, they've had talks with Manchester United, and the player's keen on joining, but Brighton won't be bullied into the sale. This is exactly what I said it is. They will sell Baleba for the right price, and they want to make sure they get the right price, so they're saying, we've agreed not to sell him. Negotiation tactic. And Romano has literally said just now, like in the last hour, Manchester United also continue in contacts on a daily basis with Carlos Baleba's agent, and Brighton, also Brighton, was, for the week it was just Baleba's agent. The last day or two, Brighton, who agreed not to sell, are still entertaining talks with Manchester United. Well, I wonder why. And Robbo made a good point here. So it's telling me United made contact with Brighton, continued to talk with Baleba, seemingly sorted out all the personal terms, and made club-to-club direct contact with Brighton, whilst the public narrative has gone, Brighton have no intention to sell, to now talking about record fee and negotiations. It sounds like it won't be a public saga, but it could ramp up soon. Either in the next 48 hours, this deal is off, we're looking at alternatives, but we've gone from talks with the players to talks with Brighton to sorting personal terms to direct contact to record fees being touted, despite Brighton's stance being we won't sell. I'm starting to become more of a believer that this deal will happen. Anyway, let's continue on into other stories. So we've got a few updates coming in on Rasmus Hojlund, and one of the interesting ones was about Fulham. Fulham are now showing a tentative interest in Hojlund, says Simon Jones via the Mail Sports. He did also mention that Fulham are yet to know if Hojlund would be open to the move. He's got AC Milan interested. Newcastle showed some interest. He's obviously got RB Leipzig interested. And now Fulham interested. I think he's most likely to go to AC Milan out of all these clubs. They seem the most advanced. They're the ones that gave Manchester United this 4 million loan offer with a 39 million option to buy, which United, I think, are going to accept or going to agree to, but United won't do anything until Hojlund gives the green light to the move. Hojlund's stance is slowly changing. He's realising he's not going to get minutes at United. An actual article came out today and it said that Hojlund's not just behind Xerxes and Seska for the 9 spot, but there's other players that Ruben Amorim views ahead of Hojlund as a 9. Maybe Mount, maybe Bruno, maybe Mbeumo, maybe Cunha. So I think it's probably his way of forcing Hojlund out. You're not going to play. You got to go. Hojlund doesn't want to go, but he's not going to play. It looks like he's starting to get the green light towards Milan. He's starting to become more open to a move. He hasn't said yes yet, but the last report was he's more open to a move. And Sky Sports Chief is also reporting this, and so is Demarzo, that Hojlund is open to an AC Milan move after having talks with his reps. Milan are expected to accelerate talks. It looks like he could be headed to Milan, and things are expected to accelerate there. Garnacho. So Amari Hutchinson's been sold today for 38 million. Dango, I think he's going for nearly 40 million as well, and he was barely a starter for an 11th place side. 37 plus 5, so that's 42 million. So if Adanga's 42 million, sorry, not Adanga. Ouattara. What am I on about? Brain fart there. I have a friend with the surname Adanga. I meant Ouattara. Sorry. Ouattara is set to leave Bournemouth for Brentford for 37.5 million, which is 42 million. We're talking Amari Hutchinson being 38 million pounds. On top of the transfers that have already happened this window, like Gittins, Alanga 55 million, Madueke 52 million, Jacob Ramsey 40 million. United just can show that to Chelsea. Also Kieran Dewsbury, Chelsea broke even on. João Felix, they made profit on. Jacob Ramsey 40 million. United can just take that to Chelsea and say 50 million for Garnacho. Stop trying to give us 30 million. And Romano's come out and said just now that behind the scenes, Garnacho to Chelsea deal was very, very advanced and very, very active. We've been told that Garnacho to Chelsea is very close. We've been told that for a while. But he's now saying it's getting close, blah, 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 blah. It's advancing. It's actually getting close. Also, Mukati's gone for over 30 million. So yeah, I think the fact that so many average players are going for 40 to 50 million and Garnacho's are clearly better than has a higher ceiling than them, United should be able to get 50 million. One other story I want to mention is that Sen Lamens is the one Manchester United want if a goalkeeper arrives this summer. It's what Ben Jacobs said on the United stand. We're focused on Baleba. I think if we get a keeper, it'll be Lamens. I don't think we could afford Donnarumma unless Onana left. I think that makes sense. I've been saying that I think Lamens is more realistic. Mazraoui is still out injured, but there is hope he will be back soon. That is all the latest news rounded up in 10 minutes. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching. Bye.